What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of The Kindred. Episode 5. Isn't that fucking crazy? Episode 5. With me, one of your hosts, Ashley Pastrami, the pizza and mustache king of New York City, and always the lovely GP, the sneaker cat kid king of.
I got a bunch of titles. We'll roll with all of them.
I had a friend message me and be like, yo, your podcast partner has some dope shoes in the back. And I was like, I don't know anything about shoes, but I'll take your word for it. He's 18, so I assume.
18 pairs there. Technically, I got like 20 more off
You're
the
insane.
side, but it's fine.
You're insane. And joining us today, the wonderful, the lovely, you know him, Sweet Lou himself. The mastermind between getting Votann to top tables at LVO. We're all rooting for him. We're so close. I gotta say, man, it was really fun watching you play. When I saw okay, first off, we're gonna talk about your list. When I saw your list, I was like, oh, this dude's not going fucking anywhere. I was like, what the fuck is this thing? This is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. But you proved
right.
He 18th under. You know what? We're just gonna do it. I'm sorry. I want to talk. We're gonna ask you questions about who you are and everything. We have to talk about this. 18th Thunderkin, 6 of which conversion beamers.
Beamkin.
Hell yeah, man.
Madman. I'm gonna ask you all the strategy behind that. Madman. And then what was it? It was 1 Hecaton?
Yes.
2, I think 3 Sagittar, 2 Sagittar.
Yeah, 3 Sagittars with the high las.
I mean, yeah, always, right? And then some warriors.
Cannon always does well.
Yes. Yeah, right, because he can't always do well.
So 10 warriors, 3 squads of bikes, obviously just kitted out how normal bikes are, the +1 with stealth, ignore cover, and the rotary cannon. 2 Iron Masters, which I fucking love. Cannot stress that enough. And then a squad of Hearthguard with the champion with them.
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Grim
right.
Demeanor.
Yeah,
And
wonderful.
Were those all Volkite or Plasma?
Plasma man.
Hey, as soon as they made the ruling for LVO with the plasma, or not with the plasma, with Grim Demeanor,
yeah,
I was like, why not plasma? Like,
yeah,
it's perfect. So.
That's the thought I had though. But with I brought Thunderkin, which I usually don't play. I brought Thunderkin with a Iron Master and I gave him Grim Demeanor because I assumed there would be so many vehicles, and it did work out to my favor. I do question maybe plasma might have been maybe a better choice, but that's neither here nor there. But that's awesome.
I love the plasma. I think that they already get so many shots anyways, just with the back gun.
Sure.
You don't need the way to fire a lot of times, and you want them to have that versatility because they're a 300-point unit. They're our most expensive unit, so it makes them be able to go after anything.
Right. No, that's very fair. That's very fair.
Well, that's been a great little aperitif. We're gonna wet your whistle just with an idea of what Lou's list was here. But to give everyone a foundation here, this is our post LVO episode. So we're gonna come at you from 2 different perspectives here. We have one, Mr. Pastrami here. He went through. What was your record, my friend?
I only went 3-3. I had high hopes for myself. Good, I wanted to do, last year I went 3-3, and this year I was like, I'm gonna do at least 4-2, and I didn't. But it's okay. I'm not like bummed about it. I faced people that went fucking like 5-1. Like those are my losses. Like the people that went that just did better than me. So I can't like be upset about that.
You went out there as a bit of a community champion in a way, and you got to meet a bunch of people, right?
I did, yeah. It was really sweet. Actually, big shout out to Jordan from the Votann Discord that found me, and then also Isaac from the Stat Check Discord. They met up and we hung out for a little bit. That was really sweet.
You love to see it. We have Pastrami's perspective over here, but we're also going to have Sweet Lou, who did very well. I think you ended up being one of the top performing, if not the exact top performing Votann player that we
definitely a Votann, yeah.
Yes.
And I got Votann.
And we wanted to make sure we could bring it in, hear exactly how that went, get some of your feedback on some of your games, and really just kind of hash it out. Give people that whole, if you didn't go to the LVO, or even if you did and you didn't play Votann, that idea of how it looked on all sides.
I think, yeah, your end run was 5th at LVO, which is no easy feat, as you could tell us playing a million games in a couple of days. 8 wins, 1 loss, or 7 wins, 1 loss.
So good.
And your only yes, and your only loss was the dude who won. So I don't know. I think in the grand scheme of things, that's pretty fucking tight.
The guy who won in what I can just say is my favorite matchup of all time: the War in Heaven 2.0, Hubris of the Elves as the elves do not give the Necrons enough respect and end up losing because of it.
Hell
Good
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Great LVO
That
final.
hypercrypt list is so good though. Like that, I can't stress enough how it does damage, it moves around, it scores, it does everything. It's insane.
Dude, what an insane, like, what a crazy. I just can't believe that monolith. I just hate it. I hate that did anything, and it did it. It actually it did a lot.
They have to take the monolith in hypercrypt. That was my second hypercrypt that I actually played. The other one wasn't Matt Loris, so it wasn't that same caliber of player. Still a really good player though. And that game was super tight. That was 63-60.
Whoa.
And that was on the whole the power objectives thing. And he just has so many characters.
So many characters. Yeah.
Like he was jumping around and scoring even though he wasn't anywhere near it. Like
before we get too deep into LVO, actually, Lou, tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Like, I see you are no stranger to Warhammer. Clearly, you got a great set. Also, is that your display board next to you? Did you bring your display board?
Yeah, like right next to me, man.
Dude, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
I'm too chicken shit to bring a display board.
Oh, dude, I had a great time with it. And it won me second best overall. I got beat out by Sean Naden because you just can't take that work from him.
Yeah. So like how long you playing Warhammer? Like what got you into leagues? Like, yeah, lay it on us.
Yeah, so like I've been playing since probably second, third edition. Quit for a little bit while I grew up in like high school and college and stuff. And then went into a random game store to get a game with my wife. And I saw some Stationary Guard. And I was like, oh, sick. Like, I have money again. Let me go buy some of these.
Right, I'm an adult. I have a salary.
Yeah, I'm an adult now. Why not play with toys? So I went and bought them. And then it's just been downhill since then. Like, I played Blood Angels for years. I moved to Greece. Played in Greece out there a while. If any of the Greek guys are watching, they're definitely going to remember me. And I did like a Super Smash night list out there with Mortarion and stuff like that, which was always fun to run. And then came back and I've been crushing it. And I love Votann. I always loved squats.
Yeah.
I loved that you couldn't talk about squats in GW stores. I loved like just that hubris of it. And then they brought out Votann and I was like, yo, when the pre-nerf codex for Votann was so good.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the most broken army in the world.
Yeah.
What did GW do?
Yeah, for sure.
And then so I bought a bunch and then they nerfed them and I was like, pretty good.
Yeah.
And so I've been playing them on and off ever since. And the funny thing is last year I actually brought Necrons to LVO.
Oh shit.
My soul.
How many total armies do you tend to play with? Or have you played with? Or what do you have in your collection now?
That's probably like what do you got going on? Like what's your rotation? Yeah.
Yeah, right.
He's like, my wife is not listening. I could tell it out loud.
Yeah, I know. I just sold my Necrons army because I was tired of playing them. I get bored, so I usually switch out about every 6 months. I think 6 months gives me a really like full ability to play the army. But the thing is, with 40K, the meta changes probably about every 6 months, pretty drastically.
Yeah.
And I don't meta jump, but I change up my armies to usually beat the meta and play against it.
That's fair.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I rotate between my 3 to 4 main armies that I have. So, for me, I have Chaos Knights, super big fan of. I have my Gene Stealer cult, and then I have my Votann as well, and now I'm building World Eaters. And between those 4, I tend to have the ability to kind of play whatever works. Votann gives me my great shooting and mixed. Knights gives me my vehicle-based high armor if I just want to stat check something. Gene Stealer Cult gives me my horde option, and now World Leaders gives me my melee force. So kind of having a couple options. We've repeated this in a couple episodes before, but normally, as you're seeing from folks, when you start to get to that point where you have 2 or 3 armies, it really lets you get a lot of gameplay perspective and helps you round out your play style.
I think that's what it is. The perspective is what helps you. If you like, to like go off on a side thing real quick, I coach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and what we always say is you can't defend against something if you don't know how to do it yourself. So like if you can't defend properly against like an armbar if you can't do an armbar. Like that's just true. And so it's the same thing as I think in Warhammer is how if you play a shooty army, it's going to be harder to know how to play against it if you aren't understanding what they're working with, like why they're doing the things they do, why they're scoring, how they're killing, et cetera, et cetera. I think that is a very true factor. When I first started getting into more competitive Warhammer, I was like, okay, I'm only going to play one faction ever. I'm only going to think about one faction, and I think that is what will make me like good. And I think there is some truth to that, but I do think that if you can just get like some play in of trying some other things, I think it helps out in the long run just to understand what every other faction is working with, right? Except for like, I don't know, Eldar. Everyone knows what Eldar is doing, I don't know, but that's awesome. It's funny. Me and Gene sorry, I never say your name. I'm gonna cut that out. We actually accidentally started doing world eaters together without even realizing, which is so funny. Just because world eaters are tight. I might be starting Tal soon, which I feel a little dirty about.
That was one of my other armies that I was kind of.
Hear me out. Why? Hear me out. Hear me out. Wait, hold up. I should be ashamed. I know I should be ashamed. Hear me out. I have a team tournament coming up. Are you doing BFS, GB? Do you have a team coming in?
I'm not sure just yet. I am hoping to in the spring, but I hadn't really talked with some of the guys a little bit. I've still been deep in my Warcraft.
You fucking Warcraft nerd.
I would still like to.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great event. BFS is a big thing up here in the Northeast for anyone here. Huge events.
Wait, when are you coming up here, Lou?
Probably January.
Oh, of next year.
Like next year.
I was gonna say, dude, because there's a huge BFS Battle for Salvation is like, I would argue one of the biggest team tournaments probably in the country. People come from all over for it. It's fucking nuts. Like it's.
Oh yeah, they make a huge deal out of it. They actually have a giant space in the middle of a mall.
Yeah, middle of a mall in New York.
Yep. And New York is central to most of us. So all of us from New England, we travel all the way to New York for it. You plan ahead of time. Heck, right now in one of the chats we have, people are talking about them still building their rosters for teams. So it's a big deal.
Yeah. So I'm playing with StatCheck this year, and we haven't gotten a data slate yet, and I'm a little nervous about what that might entail. Someone's already playing World Eaters, and someone's already playing Eldar, which are the other two armies I have. And so if Votann if they don't fare well at the data slate, I think I'll move to Tau, which we don't have, which I feel comfortable playing with. I'm not gonna own Tau. I won't buy. Here's the thing. I like Tau. Tau are cool models. I like Gundams and shit. That shit's tight. You know what I mean? Like, but I won't buy them. But I'll just borrow them from a bunch of friends and just play them for the next like 2 months until that tournament, if this all happens. I personally don't think Votann will get dumpstered to a point where I can't play them in a team tournament, but it's at least a nice backup. That's all cool, dude. Man, I wish I played some second edition. I've just started like 2 years ago.
I know not only, from obviously your performance with Votann so far, but I've seen you on a number of War Games live streams over the last few years. So you end up pretty consistently performing well. Not to toot your horn too much, but
toot it, baby, toot.
That aren't familiar with you.
Oh,
you've been doing well in 40K for a long time now.
Yeah, no, and I'm in the same spot that a lot of other people are, where you're just always the bridesmaid, never the bride. I'll always make it on the stream, never get that top finish. Always just get bumped out real last minute sort of thing, or not even like you go undefeated, but you happen to score a 99 instead of 100.
Yep.
And it happens, but yeah, I've been playing this game a while, man, and like I love Joe. I love War Games Live.
Oh, the best dude. I don't think our hobby would be
the best guy.
I truly don't think our hobby would be where it is without War Games. I mean that 100%. There is no other alternative in terms of live streaming that Games Workshop's live streams don't come close to War Games Live.
One guy, 2 dogs, and an RV trumps an entire multi-million-dollar corporation, and not only public relations, 100%. But in quality of stream.
Yes.
God, we don't deserve Joe.
Yes. No, do I feel you on that? For me locally, I'm a bridesmaid. I come in second a lot of RTTs, never in like the bigger tournaments, because I definitely get outshined by the better players, but I feel you there. Yours is a little bit more serious though. Like I
had to stop going to like some local events, including the local GTs. I think I had won it 3 times in a row, but that's only like a 28 man. So I don't really. That's like that's an RTT.
Yeah.
Like I won an RTT one time with one of the big ass Necron spider things. The Forge World mod. What the hell is it?
Oh, nice.
The Score Pack, not Score Pack.
The Seraptic.
Seraptic.
Something. Yeah.
I went with the Seraptic. Like
That's funny.
Nice.
Not good at all.
Well, I mean, I was about to ask you if Texas has like a pretty competitive scene, but it does though, because there is that one. There's a pretty large
Texas is
GT.
one of yeah, Texas is one of the hardest scenes in the country, in my opinion. And I'm not a huge fan of Texas. Sorry, Texas people. You guys are probably great.
Dude, you're
but
gonna
I'm
you're gonna
not
get our
gonna offend
podcast. You're gonna get
I
you're
know.
gonna get fucking shit on.
No, they love it. I love the Texas players though. The meta here is absolutely insane. When I came here, the first week that I got here, my main thing was like, hey, find a game store. Found a game store, went there, and I finished second at an RTT, and I was like, that's not normal. I was in Mississippi before this. Like I was crushing down there, and it was crazy. And it's only gotten better from there. Like this meta has just exploded.
Hell
So
yeah, dude.
it's great.
And
And
they
also
giant
have like
tournaments like the Lone Star Open.
That's what it
Alamo
was.
Cup.
That's
They
what it
have
was. Lone Star
so
Open.
many huge events. People come out
just
to
in the
Texas.
next couple months we have Clutch, we have Alamo GT, we have the Texas Open, Lone Star Open,
Yeah.
War Games Con, Warzone Houston, like in all
Not
of
only
these
that, but you also have
all
one of
of
the
these-
only Games Workshop cafes. So you also have the Games Workshop tournaments out there too, right?
kind of for the cafe is a cafe. I mean,
Okay,
it's
that's
cool. They
fair.
don't really GW up until recently hasn't been as involved in the tournament scene. I'm really excited where they're going to now.
Hopefully, yeah.
Um,
I mean, hopefully that ends.
yeah,
Because I remember
but-
I remember
And
hearing
then
like okay.
the frontline teams event this year is in Texas. That massive
Sick.
one that they're getting everybody to sign up for.
Sick.
Yep.
Sick.
So
Someone
Good
was
for
saying the
them.
other day
Good job,
that
Texas.
in about 5th edition, or up until 5th edition, Games Workshop was like it for like GTs and like the competitive scene, and then they just stopped flat out, which is so weird.
100%. Games days, GW, bring them back. Bring
Yeah.
back Games Day.
Oh, see,
Um,
that's the thing. We've talked about it before, but it's one of the things that's unique to 40K, and I'll always bring it up. But most 40K players, it's like the opposite of Magic the Gathering. In Magic the Gathering, which is the other giant, super popular event right now, a lot of the players are playing for like rewards. So you're going and a lot of the times they're chasing after like, oh, I'm gonna get a dual land. I want to get the cool
Right.
prize.
Yeah.
Most 40K players, they want like the glory of the win
It's the clout.
and the cool $2 3D printed trophy that they're gonna put on their shelf and be like, look what I won,
Yeah.
wife.
Yes.
I played my soldier dolls the best. But we're stoked about it.
Yes.
We like the cool little
Yep.
we like building our display boards.
It's very
We have
much
it.
clout.
So getting the cool little when Games Workshop started doing the store champion rewards and you get the little glass token, those probably cost Games Workshop maybe $1, but the players that win them and fighting for them, it's a huge deal. It's
Yeah.
great.
oh, yeah.
No, for sure. I do wish that there was a little bit more of a centralized like understanding of what a Warhammer tournament is, of judging. You know, speaking of Magic, in Magic, if you want to judge a Friday Night Magic, or literally anything, you have to do like a little course. There's like a little training course and stuff. Like I wish that existed here. And
So speaking with Sean Naden, they are 100% trying to get something like that started.
I hope so.
Love that.
And it would be great. So
With
just
them-
like how Magic does, they're going to be trained judges, and they'll be at every event.
Amazing.
And there won't be like, oh, what does this FAQ say? It'll be, hey, this is the national FAQ.
Right.
Oh, see, with them
That's nice.
taking on the ITC, that's one of the things that I wanted more than anything is a standardized judging and
Yes.
ruling process. 'Cause
Yes.
There's no reason why we can't do it. Magic does it with online tests, and
Yeah.
then you get vouched with other judges. And I know that some of the longtime LVO judges and stuff based out in California, Salty John and the rest of his crew, they are incredible fonts of knowledge, and getting them hopefully tuned in with that's only going to make the entire community better. So you love to hear it.
Yeah.
Speaking of Naden, real quick, before we get like LVO stuff, I remember what someone messaged me. I mentioned earlier, like I got messaged because of you, and it was specifically Votann just beat Naden. I hope you're ready for that nerf or something. Like I was like, oh, fair enough. That's hilarious. Like the poster boy orc games where everyone loves him, Sean Naden. Hell yeah, dude.
Sean Naden, for anyone who's not familiar, is a long-time player of 40K, typically always performing very well.
Yes.
He's taken a bit of a subtle route the last few years where he's not as prolific, going to tons of events all the time. But when he shows up, you can almost guarantee he's going to go well. I think he's captain of Team America now as well. Either way,
He is captain of Team America.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, he wins all the GTs in our area. Like, it's not even like, yeah.
For now.
Yeah, hey, hey, let's go, Lou, let's go. Dude, I'm stoked to have you. It'll be fucking tight.
That gives us a good opportunity to talk more directly about LVO.
Yeah.
I think we had some primary examples we kind of wanted to go into to kind of pick your brain about. So, Mr. Pastrami, where do we want to start?
I think, you know what, let's just knock my measly 6 games out and let's just get right into Lou's fun ones. I will say, I had a very weird LVO, guys. Like, very not bad. I had every single game was against like the sweetest people. Like everyone was good. I didn't get any easy games, but my matchups were weird. And here, let me lay it on you. Day 1, Eldar. Like, okay, what we expect. My first win. Match 2, Grey Knights. I was like, okay, whatever, win. Match 3, Grey Knights. Back-to-back Grey Knights.
What's wrong with you?
What do you think I got to choose?
I don't know.
So my third match, back-to-back Grey Knights. My Grey Knights are usually, I think, an easy matchup for, maybe not easy is the right way, but good for Votann because we have enough models that we can screen the board fairly well to stop their annoying shenanigans. I was on Dawn of War. I couldn't screen for the life of me because it was just so much board, and this dude was just jumping. He like, I hats off to him. I think he ended up going 5-1. Hats off to this dude. He was a very good Grey Knights player. He knew the assignment, right? And I just couldn't screen him.
So, Lou, have you been playing against Grey Knights often yourself?
Yeah. We have a pretty good Grey Knights player here, and just like he said, man, it's you got to screen the board.
Yeah, screen.
And the difference with Grey Knights and Hypercrypt is Grey Knights actually don't hit hard.
No. At all.
They're kind of just like,
they're scoring.
If you ever played with a noodle in the pool as a kid, like that's it.
Yes. And this dude did it. He was just scoring. He was jumping, scoring. I didn't kill a single full brick, which usually isn't a problem because, and to give some perspective of why. Sorry again, buddy?
Yeah, he was running a bunch of Terminators, right? Or no? The guy that you played?
The first guy I played a lot.
It's so, while you pull that up, it's so interesting to have that dichotomy because I have not played against Grey Knights once in the entire edition, purely by chance, mind you. It's just never come up. They're not super popular around me, but I haven't played against them at all.
Dude, three competitive, like 3 people that consistently come to the competitive stuff in my area. What the hell? Why can't I find it?
Come on, man.
It's showing a loss for him, but I lost to him.
Well, that could just be an anomaly.
I mean, BCP is also like, BCP. Oh, here we go. No, his name was Donovan.
There you go.
He played.
Yeah, I think that might have been the guy.
Yeah, triple librarian, a bunch of Terminator squads. Yes, it was very, very annoying. And normally, and I think some good perspective of strategies against Grey Knights, it's not even just necessarily a screening. When you screen them well enough and you leave an area from the drop that sucks for them, that you can target everything into, you can kill a Terminator squad. If everything you have is, if you leave only like a spot where they have no cover and they can't score to drop, you're gonna kill that Terminator squad with everything you got. Dawn of War, as if for those listening, is the horizontal one with a 10-inch deployment zone and just bored. It is just bored. So like, I don't care how many things I have. It's just too big to screen. So I couldn't screen him. He ended up getting it. He's a great player. Like, stopped me out. So it ended day 1, 2-1. Started day 2 against Tau. Sites of Power. I have 4 characters in this list. I specifically made this list for Necrons. I didn't play Necrons once. Spoiler alert. I literally made this list to beat Wraith like tech into Wraiths, and I didn't play a single Necrons player. But I just had a great win against this Tau player. It was probably one of the best like strategic games I ever played. I won like 100 to nothing really. I just scored a lot. It was great. And then I'm into match 4. Played against this Deathwatch player that I was like, oh, easy repulsor executioners, whatever, like the insane tank Space Marine tank is.
Mm.
Land Reader Redeemer, the Judiciaire, and like, you know, the squad of the strike squad, or not strike squad, the you guys know what I'm talking about, like this annoying ass death, yeah, the kill team.
Yep.
And then a bunch of
it was Death Watch.
Death Watch.
Oh
And
man.
and this dude was good. Like, apparently I had a Death Watch friend hit me up, be like, yo, everyone in the Death Watch Discord is like talking about this guy. I was like, all right, whatever, man, I don't give a fuck. And then yeah,
Nice.
he just wiped the floor with me. Like, those
I
executioners.
think he was also the only Death Watch there too.
Oh, only?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Whoa. I mean, respect. I actually am curious how that dude. Wait, I'm sorry. I have my matches
You
up
hadn't
here.
seen Death Watch really popping up a lot lately. And that's one of those things that
So we have a local guy, Corey Russell. Shout out to him that plays Death Watch, and he's a phenomenal player. And that is a list, especially with all those vehicles, even with the grab that Votann has, that it can be a very hard matchup because you will start to hemorrhage quick.
Dude,
Yeah,
his tanks pop a Sagitar.
Yep.
Dude, if you're not hiding right, a single tank will pop a Sagitar. So round 1, I hit almost everything. I didn't go first. I hit almost everything. He got a line on 2 Sagitars because I couldn't physically hide 6 Sagitars, like all of them. Pop 2 Sagitars turn 1. I clapped back. Didn't kill a single tank, of course. Casino guns are the best. And then yeah, it was downhill from there. But like, he played great. I'm not gonna like sit here and say it was the dice. I don't like doing that.
that's awesome.
He played very well. Like, that win was his. And then my last match was a fucking mirror. Votann, a nearly identical list, and he went first and just shoved everything in my face. And I went fixed. I went cleanse and deploy, which I usually don't do, but it was that mission where it had 4 objectives in the middle. It's like, oh, like I feel like I can do this fairly well. He shoved everything in my face, and as he had literally 4 Sagitars going like into mid-board just shooting me, I was like, oh, this is what this feels like. I got like a moment of clarity. I was like, oh man, I feel a little bad, I guess, for when I do this to people, you know? But yeah, like he went, I think he was the only person I went against that just did like 4 and 2. My other 2 losses were dudes that like went up to pretty well. So I don't feel bad about it. It's great matches, great games. I think I played well. I think my losses, you know, they happen. Sometimes you just get outplayed. It is what it is.
Sure. Yeah. And then Lou, you had 2 main games. I think we were going to focus on today, just because obviously, for those of you that haven't done
the money makers,
a 2 to 3 day Warhammer excursion is a recipe for melting your brain. So we don't want to overload them too much, especially while we're still post LVO recovering. But we had 2 big ones. And what were those that we wanted to make sure we could hit on?
I mean, I can. If you guys are cool with it, I'll roll through the ones that I remember. If you're okay with that.
Oh, of course, yeah, dude.
We want your
whole
whole
perspective. Some of these players, they were phenomenal, man. So first game, played against Noah. Noah's a pretty big name. He made world champs. He's an absolute rock star at the game. And every event, like, we always skate playing each other. And he's won a couple majors, I think, this last year as well. And every event he's always like, man, if we just played, I would have beat you. And I'm like, I don't know. So it's great to play him game 1. Absolutely loved that game. It was phenomenal. Played AdMech with that. And it was a little one-sided in that game.
How do you feel the current style of post Codex AdMech is looking right now?
So he wasn't running any Chicken Walker, which thank God. I think
Really?
the Chicken Walker list is one of the worst lists you can run.
Interesting.
Okay.
100%. So because I also went to the World Champs, and I tried to play a skew Eldar list because I'm dumb as hell and didn't bring any Night Spinners. But what my army bled was assassination, and I learned from that very early on that if you bleed anything to your opponent, you are already fighting an uphill battle. So that Chicken Walker list bleeds, bring it down.
Yeah.
So all my has to do is kill my shit. They don't need to do anything else, and then do cleanse, and they'll win the game.
Yeah. Like,
it's crazy. If you bleed anything to your opponent, it becomes a very one-sided game very quickly. That's why I don't think the Chicken Walker list is that good.
Oh, that's great to hear.
He was running more of a. I'm sorry.
No, that's great. It's good to get that perspective.
Yeah, he was running more of a like an infantry spam, a couple tanks here and there, just scoring. Well, what I did was I went after everything his I could score, and then I won the game, which is pretty simple. But it's still a fun game, still a really good opponent. So after that one, played I think a Tyranids guy. Tyranids is just a hard matchup. There's so much shooting.
Like more swarmy or like
And
Monster Mash? Do you remember?
I think it was Monster Mash. No, it was Monster Mash for sure because you had all the big ass characters. Yeah, it was Monster Mash, and then a Biobore. Surprisingly, bikes don't work that great in the Monster Mash, and I know this. So I screened out my entire field with bikes. So I used all 9 bikes, so his Biobore never was able to score, and he took fixed secondaries, and I just denied him on all of those.
Hell yeah.
That was pretty great. Yeah, but my bikes didn't do anything else the whole game.
But hey, if they're doing that job, they're doing their job.
That's the thing. If they're not killing
with
stuff, exactly. I think that's a very important. That's actually a very important part to hit. Is you don't always have to be killing shit. If you're stopping your opponent from scoring, they're doing just as important a job as anything else, right?
Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest things I always preach to people is never play your opponent's game. Make them play yours. Especially if they take fixed secondaries and it's not something that's killing you, it's done. Like, it's easy. It's too easy. I can't remember who I played the third game after that. And I'm gonna feel bad because they're probably a nice person. I personally had one of the best LVOs I've ever had. All my opponents were phenomenal. And this year too alone, like there were a lot of people that were like, "This is the best LVO," and I agree with them. Like it was phenomenal. After that, I remember playing an Eldar guy, super good opponent. He played. He had like a Night Spinner, a bunch of Falcons and Wave Spinners filled with Harlequins, and then some random scoring units. Once again, that army's designed to score. It is. And he took fixed secondaries. And turn 1, I marked his units that I knew were scoring, and I went first, yeeted my bikes across the board to delete all of his scoring secondary ones, and he barely got any secondary objectives at all. He took like behind enemy lines and teleport homers, and I think I let him get behind enemy lines on the last turn just to like give it a game. So that guy was a phenomenal opponent, and then Hypercrypt. Played my first Hypercrypt at the event, and fuck Hypercrypt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Truly.
So let's talk more about that game.
Insane. So yeah, super close game, 60-63. Turn 1, I don't think that he understood that I could easily smoke any of his Satans with conversion beamers. Hey, so conversion beamers are absolutely phenomenal into Satans. Cannot stress this enough. Because it turns the damage 3 into damage 2. And with them getting sustained hits D3 on 4s, it is very, very reliable. They also wound on 4s with the +1 wound because they're strength 7. The hands don't naturally have that good of a save. It forces them to take a bunch of damage. And then I did the exact same thing that I did with Matt Laura, except with the Matt Laura game, the Satan hadn't taken any damage. I just wanted to do a bunch. Charged my Berserker squad in. Oh, shucks. I lose 100 points. Your Satan's dead. Or it's like down a bunch of wounds. And that's the easy way to kill Satans. So
that's one of the things that we preach a lot is using those Berserkers as kind of that sacrificial pawn. You know, getting them into that position where it's like, all right, kill them. I don't care. They're going to kill you anyway.
Right.
Exactly. All day. I've never not played them hyper aggressive. I've never been like, oh, I'm going to wait for these for turn 3. No. Berserkers get to die turn 1 every game, and they kill something. So that's their job. But no, he was able to then jump around a lot. It was that Sites of Power mission, like I said earlier. So he was able to empower a lot of those objectives and like jump around, do really well on scoring. And the game was super tight at the end. It was 63-60. Just because like I couldn't draw a good secondary to save my life, and he just couldn't. I couldn't stop him on scoring when he needed to score. Really good game. Played against a Wraith Blob in that one. So it wasn't the Canoptic Court, so its damage output wasn't there, but still super survivable. And I found out that and I didn't find out this. I built my list just like you did to deal with Canoptic Court. I didn't even put Hypercrypt in my mind.
Dude, same. I didn't even think about Hypercrypt. I was like, hyper what? Like,
I'm so down for that.
See, it's so funny because that's two of those things are a big thing from my experience as well. Is that oftentimes people either underestimate, just broadly, the scoring capacity of Necrons. If they have freedom, it's really hard to stop them from doing stuff. They have so many little tricks that they're able to accomplish. They can get away and really run away with scoring. But also, I've had a buddy who's been talking to me up about Hypercrypt for weeks, but I feel like a lot of us have only been looking at some of the other options, but Hypercrypt showed up and really brought it.
Yeah, I'd only really been looking at Canoptic Court, but absolutely smoked his blob of dudes. Once again, that came in a large part to conversion beamers because damage 3
Dude, get
into the
out
field
of
of
here.
pain, you're able to smoke them.
And that's the thing, right?
Yeah,
So some of you will notice as you're listening that we're really harping on the notion of conversion beamers right now and really talking to Lou about
Well, all we've done is talk shit on conversion.
because statistically, most people look at them and they're like, oh, I mean, it's just worse. If you look at the math, it's just worse. But one of the things we're talking, and I'm going to give a shout out once again to everybody here to the Leagues of Votann Discord. If
Link
you're
in the
there,
description after this episode.
join us in the competitive section. We're going to talk all about it. But we run nerd math, and we're like, all right, well, statistically, this doesn't work. But one of the things that Lou encountered that we were talking about this morning is that there is kind of that wow factor sometimes. You'll have some targets like Votann where they don't really have a native armor save. They're going to be saving on a 4-up anyway. It'd be better just to make them take 2 flat damage every time. If it explodes, it explodes. They're going to wound the same as if it was grav. It's going to add up. Or for some folks, you might just have that psychological factor where they're like, oh, wait, what does that gun do?
Yeah, state it's
D3 damage.
D3.
It overwatches on 5s. So there's all these things that could come up that might just distract someone. So
Truly.
Lou, in this instance, did the unthinkable, and he proved folks wrong, and he succeeded with the gun that most people are like, yeah, don't take that, including us.
And I think that's a very important because like Math Hammer is important in a lot of ways, but it isn't the end all be all on stuff. And I feel like unfortunately a lot of times we get pigeonholed into like what we think is good or not based just on some math when it's not always the case. And even if the math does say this might not work always, you like if you're going to an event and you know something is going to be there in hard, like there was what, like 67 or 70 something Necron players, or I don't even know. There's a lot of Necron players. Like it's not bad to like tech into these things like with that in mind. And so yeah, I make fun of conversion beamers, but like clearly it worked for Lou. So I don't, you know what I mean? Like my
another good thing conversion beamers go into, and I didn't even bring up this one, is Wraith Guard. Like,
oh really?
Every failed set, you're just forcing your opponents to take saves, and yeah, a lot of times they will get that cover, but they're gonna get it anyways, and they're so cheap.
Right. Well, you know what? Actually, this matters more for the lore game because that's where I saw you do it. But were you deploying them in buildings on the top to get that raining fire? Because I saw in the lore game you deployed them up top on a ruin. No, that wasn't a thought.
No, I do that for my opponents so that they know where my units are.
Oh, okay, that they were just inside.
Yeah.
See, I was like, yo, is this man like literally deploying his terrain to get raining fire, like with his?
He also thought that. He's like, holy shit, you have line of sight to the whole board. And I was like, I'm good. I don't want line of sight to the whole board.
Right.
I want them to be
right. Fair. Okay, fair enough. Okay, I saw that. I was like, is this some like funkiness he's doing? Okay, that's good to know because I was thinking about that the entire time after. I was like, yo, player place maybe isn't that terrible. Like, I guess I could like deploy, you know. Okay, fair enough.
So that was my first Hypercrypt game. Awesome game, awesome opponent. Loved it a lot. Can't remember who I played next. Actually, no, I do remember who I played next because it wasn't Sean. So it was funny because me and Sean were bullshitting next to Joe's stream and everything and talking before that round. And then somebody came over, they're like, hey, sorry, man, you got Sean. And I was like, sick, dude, let's go have some fun. We're gonna have a grand old game.
Were you expecting to get knocked out there?
No.
No, okay, good.
I expected to have a phenomenal game. I always think way too highly of myself going into games, and I'm like, no matter what, I'm like, I got it.
No, good. No, I mean, confidence is a big part of a lot of this. Like once you start second guessing shit, it gets you.
Yeah, and not to mention, I was a little drunk too. That helped out.
Let's go.
But like, I'll pound a monster really quick if I know that I'm like going into a game kind of a little drunk, just to like level myself out, which is kind of what happened with Sean. So. He went turn 1, which I think is what he did not want to do at all, in my opinion. I've actually had the chance to play a lot of orcs. One of the best orc players in the world is over here. Not Sean, but it's Jake Gonzalez. He performs phenomenally with orcs. He does really, really well. I've gotten to play him a couple different times.
Fucking hate orcs.
The orc matchup into Votann, the orcs I think are already at a huge disadvantage, especially on player place terrain. So setting up the terrain, there were a lot of avenues of fire for me, especially mid board. Basically, all the objectives I was able to have line of sight on. He went first, moved up. He set up aggressively. He really did. And I can't blame him for doing that because a lot of his stuff was in vehicles. It was either in that big battle wagon that was holding his 20 boys, or it was in one of the trucks. So put a lot into the battle wagon. I actually put more than I thought I was going to need to. That was one of the few times that the lottery cannons didn't lottery off for me.
Yeah.
Or even he made a bunch of saves. It was really good. And then I finally had to commit more into it. So I had to commit my conversion beamers once again into it. And he failed a 3-up rerollable save, which caused it to explode. So once that exploded, it killed 6 of his dudes on the inside too, which is like it's a bad roll for him.
Yeah.
And then the dudes got out, and I had 2 bikes, including my high las rotary gun one, and he didn't have the wah off, so they just deleted most of the rest of that squad.
Oh,
which
damn.
Threw him at a huge disadvantage.
That's like the game.
Sleep on the output of those bikes. They can be pretty shooty.
They can be insane,
especially against orcs where they have like 5 ups.
I marked that boy squad on the inside too with my 2 judgment tokens at the beginning because LVO ruled that we could do that. So they were super. They were
toast.
Yeah. And then another big thing. So my berserkers I got out because I always play them hyper aggressive. I was either going to charge towards the battle wagon because I just didn't want the battle wagon to be alive. I didn't want him to get the extra inches with that wall that I knew that he was probably going to do turn 2. So I was either going to charge it towards the battle wagon or whatever remaining dudes were left, or he had some bikes right behind a wall that I was going to charge. So then I charged the bikes too, which he took fixed secondaries. He took, I think, because it was 4 objectives, so he took cleanse and deploy teleport homers. He didn't get max teleport homers the whole game, which was really nice just because of my presence, my board presence, and then cleanse. He was able to max out pretty much every turn, but it forced me killing those bikes. Forced him to change his action allocation with his army pretty much.
Yeah, fair.
It shut off the number of units that he had that could actually do those actions. Then I charged a Sagittar into one of his trucks that had his huge squad of flash gates as well. Cool. Tagged the truck. Sagittar didn't die. I was like, sweet, because it has that one shot that's really good. Sagittar didn't die, but it's tagged. He's not going anywhere if he wants to action with that truck. Was my thought. It was in the perfect spot that I had a very, very nice little corner to drop in my Hearthguard. So going into his turn, he gets his flash gets out. I rapid ingress my Hearthguard. The flash gets didn't really have line of sight with anybody but one model. And then I moved my Hearthguard, and my whole Hearthguard squad deleted the flash gets, and then they just kept moving up that side of the board. And then on the other side of the board, I had dropped in my 2 units of grab and was just leading a lot over there as well. So it was kind of like just a pincer movement. And I was able to shut off a lot of his scoring and kill a lot of his units. Some MVPs as well. One of my Iron Masters killed Gazgold in melee.
Hell yeah. Did you pop Warrior Pride?
His bonky little 3 damage hammer, man.
Saves. Yep.
What?
He just failed no saves. But the thing is that so that blob with the conversion beamers with the 6 dudes, Gazgold doesn't actually have enough attacks to eat through my little guys and to kill them.
Right.
Please tell me, did you Warrior Pride the unit to give him no saves?
No.
He just failed the saves. Wow, that's nuts.
Love it.
He just failed the saves.
Orcs
honestly,
don't have good saves.
They don't have good saves.
Yeah, honestly, I was out of CP at that point.
Yeah.
We were both burning through so much CP in that entire game.
Yeah.
That it was at the point where it was either allocating for maybe doing an Overwatch or doing the Warrior Pride thing, even though I didn't give a shit about Gazgold anyways because I own the objective.
Yeah.
That he was.
That's right.
But yeah, phenomenal game against Sean. As always, he was just a class act guy. And I was super happy to just bring home that win.
Hell yeah. So, no, you should. I mean, that's a good win against a very good player. Like I said, dude, people literally were like, well, Votann just beat Sean and Orcs. Like, you're getting shit on. I was like, okay, can't wait for the data slate.
Votann's win rate into orcs is insane. Votann usually win that matchup.
No, I think it was more so just that you beat Sean
person.
Naden, like the poster boy orc guy for like, yeah, I think that's what it really was.
Yeah.
So
it felt good to beat a bunch of orcs.
Throughout the tournament, what kind of missions were you looking at? What were you feeling secondary?
That's a good point. Did you mostly do tactical?
Yeah, I only did tactical. Unless my opponent bleeds something, I won't do anything besides tactical. We're playing horde armies right now, Votann. If you can't achieve tactical really well, you're not moving your units where you need to move them on the board.
I like that because I typically go with more of a fixed plan because I like doing cleanse and homers just because typically in the missions that I do it works well. But here you are doing the complete opposite.
I absolutely love when my opponents take things like cleanse and homers because it's like, hey, I just have to keep kind of being present on the board and deny them points and I win.
Yeah.
Right. As soon as your opponent takes a fixed secondary that you can't bleed from them, right? That doesn't. If I play my army, you get this secondary. As soon as they take something that's not that, it's very easy to deny them points.
And you're saying more so, yeah. When you say bleed secondary, like a passive secondary that doesn't require an action, right? Like just playing the game, like if you're taking bring it down, assassinate,
like bring it down, things like that,
right?
That's 100%. Yeah.
I feel like I approach it the same way, but I do find myself, if I can't get at least assassinate or deploy, max or not deploy, assassinate and bring it down. For assassinate, I won't do if there's only 4 characters, and I won't do bring it down if it gets me less than 18. Otherwise, I usually don't go for double action as secondaries, like I said before, because we do have a lot of models, but I don't want to pigeonhole myself too much by having those focused up. Unless it's something like, I think it was a mistake in hindsight doing that 4 objective, my last mission on Saturday, doing both deploy and cleanse, especially against the Votann player that had 6 Sagittars, that it can easily just stop me from getting on those points. Which was in hindsight, like obviously it's always coulda, shoulda, woulda, right? Like now I'm like, oh, why did I do that? It's so the dumbest thing ever. In the moment, I was like, I'm gonna score this shit every round, So I think it's a very good point. Make sure you're not overextending yourself.
It becomes a dice roll too at that point. Like if you're playing a mirror and you guys each take the exact same secondaries, and you guys both have very similar lists. It comes down to who goes second.
Yeah,
because that person that goes second that gets the most primary because you guys are both tying everything else.
Yeah, that's very.
And that's in a game where dice match out perfectly, right? Because you're just both killing shit and doing actions at the exact same time and everything like that. And then it's whoever gets second. And I don't ever like A, setting up for my deployment, or B, planning my game to make it where I have to go second. I always want to be able to play first or second.
Sure. That's a very important thing. I find myself wanting second against melee armies, and I find myself wanting first against other shooty armies. Obviously, I think makes the most, and I think that's probably a lot of people will feel that same, just because.
And for sure, you're always going to want to prefer first or second depending on the matchup. But at the end of the game, it doesn't matter how many units I kill. All that matters is the points on the board.
Truly, yeah.
And like I think a lot of people forget that, where they're just like, bam, kill, and I'm like, sick. I got tabled. Guess what I won?
Yeah.
Like that used to happen a lot with my Blood Angels. It's happened before with my Votann, unfortunately. And I'm just like, cool. Like, you tabled me. Congratulations. You ate everything, and I scored all my points.
Right.
A lot of players focus way too much on defeating the opponent's army instead of the scoreboard.
100%.
You only win off of points.
Yes.
We're not playing in the world of kill more anymore, depending on the mission. But you have to win off of points. You have to be scoring points.
Yeah. Points of the game. I think that's actually what unlocked, once I started trying to play more competitively, that's like kind of what unlocked it for me in regards to like advancing like my skill, was more so like, how am I stopping my opponent from doing what they want to do while also doing the things I want to do? And I think that's like a pretty important conversation to have with yourself. Like, and that's army and matchup dependent. Like, everyone's gonna want to do different things depending like which army they're playing, and you just got to recognize like, what do they want to do? How do I roadblock that while also making sure that my game plan doesn't get roadblocked by me stopping that?
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously,
and something I tell people. Sorry.
No, you go finish, please.
Well, something I tell people all the time, and I think I've said it a couple times here, is never play your opponent's game. As soon as you start to play your opponent's game, you're losing. Always make them play your game.
So in your experience from your games, with obviously you playing tactical and switching it up, what units did you feel for you were the most successful when it came to doing those missions?
That's a good question. Yeah.
Maybe no.
For me,
The
it's always the
Sagitar Warrior
bikes.
combo.
Sagitar Warriors,
honestly, not the bike. Most of the times I play the bikes too aggressive. So I do that to give the rest of my army shooting paths. In my sister's game that I can talk about next, I actually did that really, really well. But if I play at least 2 of my units of bikes, hyper aggressive. Like I'm like, come deal with this now, or you're going to suffer later. And it forces the shooting pass that I need for the rest of my army, especially turn 2, when all my grab comes on to do whatever the hell I want. Yeah, I think the Sagittars with the 2 5-mans inside are my favorite ones for scoring.
Sure.
Just because I can either yeet them really far, right, with the extra movement that they get from disembarking that vehicle, or I can move the vehicle dies, they get out next turn, they do whatever secondary they need to do.
Right.
I never play those Sagittars with the dudes inside on the center objective. I'll toss the Sagittar that has my berserkers on the center objective all the time. And especially when I get those berserkers out, and leave that guy there, and then slowly creep up my conversion beamer dudes to kind of chill at that center objective. But the side objectives every game is where I put those other units, because then there's a lot of secondaries that involve you being on those outside objectives, or close to those board edges, or close to that table quarter.
Right.
Like, by setting up your army to be able to do that, you prepare for the rest of the game.
And you're not. What about what you don't think about? Like, what if you get like area or deploy? If you're not going for their deployment zone, are you just like, do you move more center, or do you go just rush? Like, what are your thoughts there?
So for deploy teleport homers, you still get 3 points in the center. And a lot of games, like even behind enemy lines or deploy teleport homers, are actually the ones that I usually abandon.
Sure.
Teleporters I won't most of the time, but behind enemy lines I more than likely will, because it forces me to overcommit my army past the midboard, which is kind of the home of Votann. Votann loves the midboard. And I say that, and I think back to the games at LVO, and a lot of them I did have like my Terminator or my Heartsguard blobs deep striking in their backfield and stuff like that. That's just because they left it open.
Right.
If they didn't leave it open, they wouldn't have done that. But there's just some secondaries you have to understand with tactical that, hey, you're not going to achieve, and this is where I'm saving it in my mind for that CP spend. A lot of people spend it for investigate signals because they're just like, oh my god, I can't get 8 points. Investigate's terrible. If you do 2 quarters, you get 4 points.
That's not bad.
Almost max.
Yes, that's not
like,
bad.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's like there's just, it depends on the matchup, on like how aggressive I play and where I place my units, on what secondaries I'm abandoning, or just knowing that, hey, I won't get.
That's fair.
And the thing is that you only need to get 40 by the end of the game. If you get even 5 on turn 1, you're ahead of that curve, right? Because you have 5 more turns of scoring, or 4 more extra turns of scoring. You just have to get around 10 points each one of those turns. Maybe you'll get a high turn where you bring it down and you're able to knock out 8 of that 10 points, right? Like there's with tactical, it can be very, like, there's only 16 cards. You know where the missions are gonna, like, you know kind of what cards you have left, and you're just like setting up your army based on what cards are kind of left.
Sure. Unless you get like me, round that the second Grenades player, turn 1 I got capture and behind enemy lines. And I was just like, what the fuck? I was like, what the fuck?
I love when people get that turn 1. I'm like, hey, cool.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you still have 4 more you still have 4 more turns to score after that.
Sure.
It doesn't take you out of the fight at all by getting 0 points turn 1.
Yeah. That's
and a lot of people don't realize it.
And not only that, but it's a thing that I feel like a lot of players, especially newer, more casual folks, forget is, don't forget, you do always have the option for a command point to pitch one of your secondaries for a new one. You can redraw. You are not always stuck. In the heat of a game, you'll be round 3 drawing, you'll be like, oh no, I got hosed, I'm stressed, I'm gonna lose because I'm gonna fall back. Brother, you can still pitch one.
Yeah.
You can redraw. You might be okay. Just focus on the game at hand, not the salt.
Yeah.
For sure. I think, and then the moment of glory, we got to talk the Laura game because I think, dude, I was watching that game
Yeah.
on the plane. I got Wi-Fi on the plane to watch that while I was flying home.
Dude, moment of glory or moment of shame, right?
No, no, no,
Um,
no. You had listen, dude. I'm sure. Obviously, I think this is important to say before you even get into this. Like, you lost that game. There's always moments where you're gonna look back and be like, "Oh, I should have done fucking X, Y, and Z. I should have done this, that, and the other thing." But it's like in the moment, you're not thinking that. You're just thinking like, "I need to play the game. These are the things in front of me. This is how I do it." And
yeah,
if you have those revelations, great. That's for your next game. That's setting you up for
yeah.
success in the future. Like, we all watched it. We all loved it. Yeah. So I just wanted to say that before.
Honestly, my moment, and you guys will, because I know the internet like tore it up a little bit, where they're like, "Oh man, he should have charged this a tan. Should not have charged this a
I
tan."
can't wait to. I
I'll
can't.
talk
Okay,
about
I
that.
didn't want to. I didn't want to bring it up. I didn't want to bring it up. First of all, you're a better player than me, and I'm not going to criticize a better player than me. I can't wait to hear. I need to hear. I need to hear. I need to hear. I need to hear why.
Oh, all day. Yeah, my biggest regret and is I chose the blue dice.
Dude, the blue dice are cursed, man.
They rolled very bad for me. Never gonna make that mistake again. Joe told me he bought new dice and they weren't as bad. They were still just as
Dude,
bad.
they're cursed.
Blue, my army's kind of like tealish. That's blue. We'll be thematic. That's always fun. Worst idea ever. But no, so going things that I messed up on in that game. And just looking at that game as a whole. So went first, right? 100%. That is an army that I do not ever want to go first because he turn one pulls up 4 units
Yeah.
and does whatever the hell he wants to the rest of the game.
Dude,
And
isn't that crazy?
It is, and it's so good, but that's how the army plays. And I was like, okay, going into that, I was like, all right, he's gonna do this. I'll try to zone some areas out that I know that I really don't want him to go. That actually kind of worked. Going into his turn one, so charge with the berserkers just to get that the Nightbringer down. And dice rolls, right? It only has 6 attacks. You're gonna drop 1 and then another 1, so then you're down to 4, which means my squad lives, right? Like, so that was cool that the squad lived. I think it had 2 dudes or 1 dude left or whatever the hell. So the berserkers were just there to annoy the hell out of it, keep that Nightbringer where I wanted to, and then I was able to kill the other Satan and just do the little wounds that I needed to everyone else. Then we went into turn 2, and I committed what 3 grav, and I think that another like unit's worth of shooting into a destroyer. And I didn't kill it. Right? It took that much to kill a single destroyer, and I was like, like this. He is about to roll great. So they killed the other Satan. Was able to do that. Had to commit a little bit to that. Moved the Sagittar up because the Sagittar was, in my mind, I was like, cool. I'll tank shock it. That was probably one of my biggest misplays in my opinion. I was moving that Sagittar up. I was also thinking I just needed the extra shots if I needed them, which I did against the Void Dreg. And it got me those extra shots because I still had to bring it down. I had to kill one of those that turn. I want to kill both, had to kill one. But it took way more shooting into the Void Dragon than it even should have as well.
Yeah.
And then going into the Hearthguard blob, right? So brought them in mid-board. He left me a pretty nice pocket to be able to fit everybody in. And I was like, sick. I am going to win this game. All I have to do is not F up this charge, which is not into the Nightbringer, right? It's just that we were talking about denying your opponent the ability to score. The Nightbringer does not let him score.
Sure.
The Nightbringer charged into a blob of Thunderkin and didn't even kill all of them.
Yeah.
Fuck the Nightbringer.
Right. Yeah. In the grand scheme of things, it wasn't like that. The Nightbringer isn't going to swing the game for him. Like, that's not what's going to swing it. Yeah.
What was going to swing the game for him was that fucking 10 Immortals that can jump every way that it wants to.
Yeah.
And that's why I charged them. But I forgot they had Armor Contempt naturally built in because they were near Xeris. That's my fault. I know we talked about it because we talked before the stream even started pregame. He talked about it. I had forgotten that it was a thing. That's where I should have spent for the bonus AP because that was the target that was marked. So they had one judgment on them.
Yeah.
Armor Contempt went away.
And that's
so they
one
would
of
have
the
been taking on
things.
5s. The next thing is I could not, for the life of me, kill that squad. I rolled too many 1s and 2s, and he rolled too many 4-ups. I killed more in the charge with the champion doing 2 mortals than the entire rest of the squad did in May.
Jeez.
It's bonkers to me. But if I would have been able to kill that 10-man blob, that game would have been completely different. Because I would have owned his objective. Going into that next turn, he would have gotten 0 on primary. B, he no longer has a 10-man blob to jump. Now he only has 2 left. And now I have the entirety of my rest of my army. I don't have to worry about that one shooting at me with all of its crazy ass rerolls. I don't have to worry about scoring points. None of that. I now only have to focus on 2 things and maybe start chipping away at the monolith. But when they lived, I was like, fuck, man, this is bad. Bad. And that's honestly what killed me on that one. And that's why I charged them instead of that Satanian that I didn't give a shit about.
GP, did you have something to interject on?
Sorry.
Yeah, so I was just going to mention that, Lou was talking about the fact that he had forgotten about one of the modifiers on one of the units. That's a thing that really hits folks. It's difficult in Warhammer because there's so many armies, and each of them can not only have their own rules that vastly differ between them, but each one is going to have maybe between 1 and 6 detachments. Each of those detachments has their own modifiers and rules. Each of those detachments can have their own enhancements that modify them even further, stratagems that interact with them. So you have so many variables that, especially when you're walking into an event where you're like, hey, this is my 8th game on day 2, it's 11, I've barely been able to eat and sleep properly for the time, you're gonna forget something, and it can be hard.
It's not physically possible to remember it all. It's not possible.
It is a unique Warhammer thing, and there's almost no way for us to speed up rounds unless we were playing games that were half the size, and then that doesn't just
That's
feel
fucking
as
boring.
good.
Yeah.
So you're going to have this brain drain that the only way to alleviate it is, like we mentioned before, either having that perspective from playing various formats or just getting countless reps in. We mentioned it with Danny when we had Danny Porter in one of our last podcasts, but that man does tons of games on TTS, and you just get the reps and you just bang it into your head until you can't forget.
That really does seem like one of the only ways. Reps.
Yeah, otherwise you just kind of got to accept that you're going to slip.
Or talking to your opponent. If I would have said, if I would have had that simple question, did they have any defensive buffs? Matt's not a gotcha guy. Matt's an amazing player. He would have been like, absolutely, bro. They have 100 contempt right now.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, shit.
In that tone. Like, too.
I had a moment like that in my last GT against a Tau player. So it's I'll explain the scenario in just a moment, but just to preface it, it's always important to talk with your opponent about the intent of your action. So in my game, I had Tau that came in, they had moved and fire and faded behind a ruin, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm just gonna move one of my war dogs over here, and I'm gonna shoot you through cover. But ultimately, I couldn't tow in just like that, and I forgot that I don't have the ability to have that true line of sight anymore. But I didn't communicate that. So it could have been a situation where realistically, that war dog could have moved 6 inches anywhere and then been fine and not died or been able to shoot something else. But as soon as my opponent said, you can't do that, and it's like, hey, you know what? You're right. I didn't talk about it. I didn't speak out loud about what my intent was or explain what I was doing. I could have done a million other things, but I didn't. So that's on me. You're right. It's going to stay there. Let him die. Totally on you, brother. Kill my war dog. That's my mistake because I didn't talk to my opponent. That was my mistake.
Yep. It is Warhammer. I had a friend who's actually a lawyer. He put it like this: there's a social contract that you have with Warhammer specifically, and with that social contract, it's just communication, and obviously, like that's how we learn really how our other armies that we're playing against, how they act and what they do, et cetera, is just communication and make sure there's full line of communication there, and that's always important. But like at the same time, when you're like in the thick of it, it's hard to remember like, oh, I need to ask this fucking question because you're just like, I need to get this charge in your mind. Like I need to get this charge, not what happens if I get this charge, right? Like when you're ripping that like, day 3, 8th game Band-Aid.
Like especially making a charge out of each charge. I was just like, fuck yeah, my reroll.
Let's go. Yeah, exactly. Hell yeah, dude. Well, as we start to wind out, do you have anything that like stood out for you from this event? Anything that you are excited about coming up? I mean, really anything at all that you want to lay on the people? And first of all, thanks for coming. Really appreciate it. Number one.
Thanks for having me, guys. This has been a blast. And like I'm excited for all the events coming up this next year. shout out obviously to everybody here in San Antonio and to David's GT. Everybody should go to it. Go to the Alamo. It's a fantastic event. But yeah, I'm just excited for the data slate.
Hell, oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
You know,
Actually, the data slate. Thanks, GW.
I don't think Votan's gonna get hit remotely hard. I think they are in a perfect win rate spot right now.
Thank you,
Um,
thank you.
even 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 with even with like my performance at LVO, overall, I think we were only at a 53% win rate, which
Yeah.
isn't that bad. That comes down to general shit.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, I think that Necrons aren't going to get touched at all.
Interesting.
They might get a small points increase, but historically, right? GW doesn't immediately nerf shit right after a release. They're not like, oh, release
Except
was
us
3
last
months
edition.
ago. Well, they nerfed us before the release.
Before release.
Like,
Sorry, yeah.
They dropped it, and then before like general release, before events even allowed voting to be played, they're like, "Oh man, we fucked this one up." Like,
So,
they
I
did that
throw this-
ahead of time.
I throw this suggestion out there, but I'd love to get your feedback because it's one of the things that I think about. I think that some adjustments to Votann could be totally fair. The notion of
100%.
Sagittars getting a little bit more expensive, totally valid. I get that completely. But here's where I add a little bit of dad nuance to it. If Sagittars get 10 points more expensive, I think that Warriors should become 5 or 10 points less expensive to compensate. What that does is Warriors right now, if we're being honest, they do nothing for their point cost. They should not cost as much as they do because they do almost nothing. They're there to score.
They're 115, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if they dropped a little bit, because right now what a lot of us are doing is you'll take a bunch of Sagittars, but then you put like characters in it. That change, in my mind, would incentivize taking more actual troops instead of degenerately being like, here's a Grimnir and a Sagittar.
Right.
This is a legitimate strategy. I'm doing this on purpose because it's good.
If they dropped Warriors, it would be by 5 points.
You're right.
Yeah.
And I could see that.
Yeah.
Sagittars, if they don't bump up Sagittars by 10 points, that's a happy day, right?
Yeah,
We're at Christmas.
living.
Sagittars will go up more than likely more than at least a minimum of 10 points because they need it.
Yeah.
There's no other OC3 6-inch scout T10 9 wound 3-up save that spits out better shooting than a Razorback.
Yeah, it's our only good data sheet, I think.
It's the best.
Like on paper for points, I think it's our only good data sheet for points.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, on paper and points, yes.
Like without a doubt.
So it's one of those things that I think, if they do adjust anything, Sagittars, that's fair. As someone who owns 6, most of us at this point, you own as many as you can, between 4 and 6. If that happens, it's a totally fair thing that I don't think anyone's going to be upset.
If I have to lose a Sagittar,
yeah,
I'm not dying.
Yep.
I'm not losing a Sagittar at all. If anything, if they go up in points, I'm gonna add on 2 more because I'm dropping the freaking land fortress.
See, that's fair. See, I run 6, so if I have to lose 1, I think I'm living okay still.
Yeah, the land fortress every game was just a stat check for me.
Yeah. Talk about casino. That's really the
How
casino.
did you like it?
I'm sorry?
How did you like the land fort? Because I've been playing around. I've been talking about it for a while now.
If you watched the Matt Lord game, you would have seen that the land fortress shot 2 rounds of full ballistic skill shooting plus an overwatch into 5 death marks, and I couldn't kill more than 2. That I do a lot with bad rolling and his good rolling. It was miserable, that game. Most of the other games, honestly, it chills on my back objective, or I yeet it forward and sit on another objective. It very rarely ever dies because it's not a threat.
Yeah.
Because I don't put dudes inside of it.
Yeah.
And it'll just knock off wounds all over the place or just hurt people where they don't want to be hurt.
For sure. That's fair enough.
It's one of those things that I've been playing around with a list because I'm a big Chaos Knights enjoyer where I take 3 land fortresses and 6 Sagittars. It's very funny. But it is just that point where, like you said, it's stat checky.
Yes.
You're just doing it to be like, hey, can you
true.
kill these beefy Votann turtles? Probably not. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
But you're right. A lot of the Votann stuff is just they suffer from the crux of it still being ballistic skill 4, and specifically the land fortress is just not having great AP on a lot of their guns. It's just not doing a lot. It's not cracking enough heads.
Yeah, the AP one though with ignore cover is super nice still. Like a lot of
Fair.
people like really sleep on that one. Its damage output is still there. It just doesn't kill big targets.
You know, one last thing actually before we get going, to give a shout, Drew Salzborn is another really good Votann player. He made it into the shadow round because someone got kicked out.
He did.
He is running triple forts with Grimnir, and on the forts is this cyclic ion cannon, like a true mad lad. And he swears by it. I will never do it. I don't care how good it is. I will never put the ion cannon on my fort. I don't care. I'm not doing it. But
it's one of those things.
He says the best gun in the game for Votann.
We talked about. You go.
Oh, the cyclics matchup dependent, and so is that 3-land fortress.
Yep.
It's one of those things that we had talked about the cyclic for a long time in the Leagues of Votann Discord, and we were like, hey, this does have some niche cases.
Very niche.
Where it's pretty good.
Very niche.
Where it like shoots ahead of everything else and how effective it is. But in most circumstances, if you're saying like, hey, I'm going to run into random stuff, it's like, all right, well, not the railgun.
Somebody that's running something that no one likes right now, which is conversion beamers, I'm all about the cyclic. Let him do what he wants.
Oh, I mean, listen, he did success. Like, he does well. He's not a bad, like...
Yeah.
Prove the assessment wrong, right? He did very well with it.
If it was D6+6, that would be a wrap. I think honestly, I would probably choose it more. D6+6 is a pretty nasty gun for what is it? Strength 8, AP 2 damage, ignoring cover. I think that's actually not so bad. But D6+3 doesn't have enough shots for me to put it on a giant tank.
And that's one of those things that, again, as we're winding down now, I want to throw that out there. Obviously, we had Danny Porter with us. We got Mr. Sweet Lou with us today. But we are looking to always bring in more and more Votann players that are showing like, hey, we're doing something a little different. This is great. So as long as you don't have a reputation for being like just the worst insufferable goober in the world, we want to hear from you, and we might be able to bring you on. So, you know, maybe we'll be looking at Drew in the future. But the idea that it's like, hey, let's talk about some stuff. Let's really talk about where this faction is going. We want to rep you.
Very much so. Yeah. Sweet Lou, dude, thank you so much. Good job on your wins.
Hey, thank you. It was a blast.
It was really cool watching you play. You play the army very well, and clearly you enjoy playing them. So we really appreciate having you on. As always, thank you for watching or listening. We're on Spotify now. I forgot. I put us on Spotify, hilariously enough. We've only been on YouTube this entire time. And in the description, if you want to join the Leagues of Votann Discord, where all three of us are in, where we have a lot of conversations and stuff going on, the invite link will be in the description. Until next time. Oh, what you got? You got something?
I was just going to say, to give him the final word, Lou, you got anything you want to send us off with? Anything you want to shout out or mention at the end?
Honestly, no, man.
That's fair.
I just thank you to everybody in my community that's helped me out and all the practice games and all the painting tips from Aaron Kelman. And thank you guys. Honestly, you guys are crushing it.
Hell yeah.
I think you guys watch the other episodes. I like it. So
thanks, dude. He's like, yeah, my last word is fuck Hypercrypt.
Nice. Let's go.
Cool. All right, everyone. Until the next time. Thank you.
Press the buttons.
Hey, thank you guys.